How is the average American coping right now when 61% of us are living paycheck to paycheck? Just wait for student loans and childcare expenses to hit at the end of the month while interest rates continue to climb. People are not going to be okay for much longer.
On one hand, times are tough. On the other hand, I go out to eat and the parking lot is full of shiny ass trucks. You can't claim you're barely making ends meet while driving the Raptor.
This situation may feel unusual, but, historically, almost everyone I've known over the last 60-something years has lived paycheck to paycheck. In my life, it has been unusual for anyone to have savings or room on their credit card. And it sucks. It sucks to live that way.
I feel like we need to define paycheck to paycheck. I know a medical device sales rep who makes $400K plus annually and says he's paycheck to paycheck. He has a lot of luxuries and investments and doesn't factor that in. Paycheck to paycheck within what level of means? Because 61% aren't actually living paycheck to paycheck. At least not as you interpret that phrase. Dig into the finances of people who report this, and you'll often find high earners and other people who absolutely could have a financial cushion, except they've locked themselves into high fixed costs or gratuitous discretionary spending. You'll even find people who say they are living paycheck to paycheck while investing significant portions of their income, because they don't consider the money to be available for spending. 73% of adults reported they were doing at least okay financially at the end of 2022. https://www.federalreserve.gov/publications/files/2022 report economic well-being us households 2023-05.pdf. I don't think people who are actually living paycheck to paycheck would assess their situation that way.
That's a bullshit study. 1/3 of people making $250,000 or more say they're living paycheck to paycheck. I think that term is too vague to hold much meaning. If I make $1 million a year and buy a house, cars, etc. that are out of my budget, I can end up living paycheck to paycheck. I would be more interested in the number of people living paycheck to paycheck based on actual needs versus just in general. I was one of the people I laid out in my example at one point. I didn't make that much, but significantly more than I do now. But it basically all went out as fast as it came in, with some basic effort to actually manage my budget and spending. I have a decent buffer of savings while making about 1/3 of what I was before. Every single time I ask what does paycheck to paycheck actually mean, I usually get 4 to 5 different answers. So I'm going to say most are fine. Got a third job. Have no hobbies anymore. I sleep on average 4 to 5 hours a day split between 2 naps. Health spiraling downward. Paycheck to paycheck is a term that gets used very loosely by a lot of people. Some people will claim that they're paycheck to paycheck because after paying their bills, contributing to their 401k and IRA, adding to their savings account, and paying for all other expenses, they've spent their entire paycheck. If that's the definition, then plenty of wealthy people are paycheck to paycheck. A better definition of paycheck to paycheck would be having negative or near zero net worth, and making no progress toward increasing one's net worth. My budgeting game is getting better and better. My shopping game as well. Buy in bulk wherever you can. If things you get regularly are 2 for 1 buy 10. I've always been poor, so bring it on. Terrible and heating bills are ahead of us. And that's where you're wrong. If I got my next 3 paychecks right now in addition to still getting my next 3 paychecks, then I will be paycheck to paycheck. But I'm about 3 to 4 paychecks behind. And I'm feeling every bit of it. You see, I've been paycheck to paycheck most of my life. I'm what you call old poor. I know how to make it on the bare minimum. Less if needed. I feel for all these new poor that are in for a rude awakening. Things aren't getting better.
Alcohol.
I don't want to adult anymore. It's not worth it anymore. First time, us old poor are used to this. I've moved up. Now I live direct deposit to direct deposit. Well, pot's a lot more available these days, so they're that. Lentils and rice. I have no idea. I have 0 chance of owning a home. I have 100% chance of paying more in rent next year. I want to say I'm hoping for a reset. But I'll probably be literally destitute if that happens and coming out the other side. Just as far off of owning a home. Lower interest rates would be great. But then the prices will go up and I'm still right here. The good thing about a long-term lock-in is that you know what you have to pay. No surprise.
Drugs.
I just donated plasma for $125 full tank of gas and my electric bill paid for September. Yippee party popper. Ya think this is new? People been doing that for years. I'm a bankruptcy lawyer and business is definitely up. My mother survived and prospered out of a kind of squalor that makes my current poverty seem like living middle class. I have nowhere the near kind of climb she had. She was born in the back of a car and endured a childhood of sleeping in parking lots and living in condemned buildings behind paint factories. If she can make it, so can I. Hiding in my room playing SSB and looking at funny memes. Spend time with my dog. Read. Shitpost. I crochet a bit too. Oh. And I smoke a decent amount of pot from 8 p.m. to bedtime. I'm just getting through the days, cut back on a lot of things, and just riding it out. Although incredibly annoyed knowing what we are going through and hearing the powers that be tell me that Bidenomics is working and everything is fine. Such utter bullshit. Because anything that would improve the working class is looked at as socialism. That's yelled by some on the poorest people. For people, especially families with kids, making less than the US median, $70,000, it's pretty rough unless you live in a LCOL or MCOL state. Especially if you have no home or other real assets. A lot of these folks are probably maxing out credit cards, borrowing from friends or family, deferring car repairs and retirement savings, etc. when shit hits the fan. If you're making that or above, especially in a location that's affordable to live and you've locked in a house, you're in one of two camps. One camp lives below their means, saves and invests, plans for the future and keeps an emergency fund. The other expands their lifestyle, costs every time they get a raise or bonus. I don't want to minimize the struggle of folks who don't make much to begin with. It's rough out there, but being in a professional field and decently far along in my career, I see so much of the latter group. Families making $150 minus $200K in an affordable Midwest state who always have to buy or lease a new car. Need to upgrade to a McMansion after the second kid is born. Pay thousands of dollars annually for kids' travel, sports and country club memberships. Eat out multiple times a week. Buy a $60,000 boat or RV on impulse. Spend thousands on a Disney vacation. I could go on. A not inconsequential portion of the paycheck to paycheck folks are choosing this lifestyle and really can't afford it. It's all just lifestyle creep. Incredible to see. Really. I don't eat very much and try not to check my bank account. Living frugally, waiting for the rest of y'all to come to the conclusion that this is bullshit and we deserve better. I can guarantee A lot are only living paycheck to paycheck. Because they are too caught up in keeping up with the Joneses. By voting against their best interests out of tribalism. I can only speak for myself. As a neurodivergent single mom with CPTSD and chronic fatigue syndrome trying to achieve comfort and safety under the umbrella of ableist late-stage capitalism. Highly intentional nervous system regulation interventions. Every day. Restructuring and paring down my real priorities. Getting extremely efficient with my energy expenditure. Redirecting the energy I'd otherwise be losing worrying about everything else toward making damn sure I'm okay enough to function adequately when I need to. Lowering expectations while raising my standards. Raising my confidence to say no to things that will drain me. Shifting the locus of control to myself. And letting go of micromanaging, worrying what others might do that could affect me. Attempting presence. Never ignoring or shaming my body's signals. But addressing them appropriately in a timely manner. If I'm not relatively calm and grounded, I can't make good decisions or take required actions for survival. That's my whole coping strategy. I'd be paralyzed by visceral anxiety and incapacitated with burnout otherwise. I know because it's already happened many times before. I'm trying to become the eye of the storm. Basically, serenity amidst chaos and reduction of suffering is the goal. Not simple or easy work. But it's essential in my case in order to do what must be done to survive. Grateful for my therapists who are guiding and anchoring me through this so I don't drown. TL. Doctor. Radical self-care. Daily nervous system management. Psychological discipline. Restructuring priorities. Becoming efficient with my own energy. Shifting to an internal locus of control. Therapy. Grace. I always lived on paychecks. Some are drinking heavily and or doing hard drugs and ODing in record numbers. Others are going out and shooting a dozen or so people and often themselves. So, not great. IDK. I'm no longer part of the 61%. My daughter is. To get by, she has to share an apartment with 2 of her friends. Fortunately, she doesn't have any student loan debt. My dad passed away about the time she went to college and he left something to pay for her education. Poorly.